The security that I once had, that was gone. And I had to step into a world I wasn't familiar with. And it was so tempting to dig my heels in the ground and stay stuck in a place of blaming others. Stop waiting for someone else to fix your life. The revelation that I am responsible for my life, that was the game changer. And that's when I stopped waiting for someone else to rescue me. Hey there, and welcome to today's episode. I'm so thrilled that you are joining me because we are diving into a topic that has the potential to completely shift how you view life's challenges. What we are going to be talking about today is maximizing the uncomfortable seasons of life. You know, the seasons where it feels like everything is being stretched, where you feel like you've been pressed on all sides and life is just plain difficult. Let's be honest. None of us love discomfort, right? We avoid it when we can. And when it comes, we often ask ourselves, why is this happening to me? But today, I want to share how I maximized the uncomfortable seasons, how I negotiated with discomfort and allowed that to become the catalyst for a bounce back. How I learned to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And so I paid attention, finally and truly paid attention to my internal dialogue. You know, that little voice on the inside of you, the one that kept telling me all the reasons why I cannot, why I am not enough, and why I will never succeed, and how I reversed that internal dialogue. And what I'm going to tell you right now, this was the game changer, this revelation. Are you ready? I am responsible for my life. That understanding, because it dawned on me, hey, no one is coming to rescue me. It's that moment when I realized that my knight in shining armor was nowhere to be found. And it dawned on me, I am responsible for my life. And the only way to bounce back was to take leadership of my own life. And I'm talking about personal leadership. The revelation that I am responsible for my life, that was the game changer. And that's when I stopped waiting for someone else to rescue me. And I stepped into the leadership seat of my own life. Because you know what? Everything stands or falls on leadership. And so, if you are ready to dig into this concept and hear how it transformed my life, come on, grab your coffee, get your journal, get comfortable, and let's dive right in. Now, let me set the scene. I found myself in a place that I never expected, right? Divorced, single, having to provide for myself. And this was unfamiliar territory. And honestly, some days that was pretty scary. I was used to being a nurturer, right? I was used to being a supporter, the wife, the mom, a pastor. But suddenly, I had to shift into roles that I wasn't prepared for. The security that I once had, that was gone. And I had to step into a world I wasn't familiar with, a world where I found I had to fend for myself. I had to make ends meet and navigate a completely new reality. And I remember in those early days of this, it was so easy to feel like a victim of the things that had happened to me. And it was so tempting to dig my heels in the ground and stay stuck in a place of blaming others, being angry, and staying frustrated. But that frame of mind shifted when I came to the realization, like I said, no one is coming to save me. If I want my life to change, I have to take responsibility for it. And so I began to sense that this difficult, uncomfortable season wasn't just happening to me, it was happening for me. It was uncomfortable, most certainly it was. But it was also an invitation to discover something new about myself. And so for the first time, I began to see that the power to move forward was not in the hands of someone else. I had the power to drive my life forward. The steering wheel of my life, I was holding it. And so everything began to change once I realized that I was responsible for my life. The responsibility of my life is in my own hands. And that meant what happened, happened. But the question is, what am I going to do now? What is my response to what happened? And the best way to respond, I found out, was to step into the leadership seat of my own life. And let me tell you, that wasn't easy. Leadership, especially personal leadership, it is tough. Because you know why? Personal leadership, it requires courage because it leaves no room to point fingers at others for the state of my life. When you are in charge, you have the power to call the shots, and you are the one responsible for the success or the failure of those decisions. And this is why I honestly believe that many folk don't like to make decisions, and they rather let someone else make decisions for them, because that way they are exempted from the responsibility of those decisions. They don't have to bear the consequences of those decisions. And so leadership requires courage. Then I found out that leadership requires clarity. Where do I want my life to go? How am I going to get there? And I have to cultivate the discipline and the commitment to keep evolving. So leadership is tough. Leadership is hard. But one of the first steps I took was to increase my knowledge and understanding on leadership. Because it's one thing to realize you should lead yourself, it's another thing to know how to lead and to lead well. So I began reading books, I began listening to podcasts, I began to soak in the wisdom from people who had walked this journey before me. And I have to tell you, there were two scriptures from the Bible that I constantly kept before me. Number one, they were both from the book of Proverbs. that wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom. And in all your getting, get understanding. And secondly, Proverbs says that through wisdom, a house is built, and by understanding, it is established. So leadership requires clarity. Where do I want my life to go? And how am I going to get there? Then leadership requires humility. Humility to admit where you need to grow, where you need help. And so leadership requires learning, leadership requires understanding, leadership requires wisdom. As I began to lean into personal leadership, I started taking these intentional steps toward rebuilding my life. And one of those steps was setting clear goals for myself. What kind of life do I want to create? Did I still believe that God would use me? And if yes, then how and where could I use my gifts and talents, my experiences to bless others? Then, was it possible to serve God outside of the parameters of the church? How was I going to use my voice to encourage, to comfort, to support those who needed that? Then, how am I going to share the wisdom that I had garnered over the years with those who needed that? And where are these people who need what I have? How am I going to reach them? And so it was critical, as you can see, that I needed to set clear goals for myself. Another step was, what values did I want to prioritize? How and where was I going to invest my time? How and where was I going to invest my energy? Then I started looking at whom am I going to surround my life with? Because surrounding my life with people who could hold me accountable, because I knew I could not do this alone. And so, most importantly, I prayed. I needed God to guide my steps as I navigated this new chapter in my life. I have put a quote on my WhatsApp profile, and it goes like this. It says, "May I never forget on my best day that I still need God as desperately as I did on my worst day." Shall I stop, rewind, and play that again for you? It says, "May I never forget on my best day that I still need God as desperately as I did on my worst day." So here's what I have learned. You cannot grow without discomfort. We are talking about maximizing the uncomfortable seasons. I learned that you cannot grow without discomfort. You cannot discover your true potential until it is tested. And that you cannot create capacity until you are stretched. And so the uncomfortable seasons in life aren't there to break you. They're there to shape you. They're there to remind you that God has placed treasures in you. And pressure is the only way to bring them to the surface. I learned that the uncomfortable places in life are the places where we grow the most. Because growth doesn't happen in comfort. It happens in the stretch. Growth happens when we are pushed beyond what we think we can handle, and we still rise to the occasion. It happens when we trust God to use our pain as a catalyst for a bounce back. And so, as I grew in personal leadership, I began to see something amazing, that the uncomfortable seasons that felt like punishment became the soil, it became the dirt where I grew the most. And I learned that success in life is not about avoiding hardships. It's about how you lead yourself through it. Because everything stands or falls on leadership. If I hadn't taken responsibility for my life, I still might be stuck in that place of breakdown. But because I stepped into the leadership seat, I was able to bounce back. And see, God promises us this. The Bible says in the book of Isaiah that God will give us beauty for ashes, the oil of joy for mourning, and a garment of praise for the spirit of heaviness. Let me tell you, I am a living witness of this transformation. And that is why I'm here to tell you, if I can be transformed, you can be transformed too. So here is my challenge for you today. Take your seat. Take leadership of your own life. Stop waiting for someone else to fix your life. Stop waiting for someone else to come and make things better. Step into the leadership role that God has called you to. Start by asking yourself, take inventory. What area of my life do I need to take responsibility for? What steps can I take today to lead myself well? Whom can I turn to for wisdom and accountability? And most importantly, lean into the guidance of God. Because the Bible says in the book of James, if any one of you lacks wisdom, you should ask God, who gives generously to all without finding fault, and it will be given to you. Ask God for guidance. Ask God for wisdom. Ask God for understanding. And here's my encouragement. Don't resist the stretch. Embrace it. Ask God. Ask the season. What are you trying to teach me in this season? What am I supposed to discover about myself in this uncomfortable season? And take a step of faith today, whether it's saying yes to a challenge, whether it's taking a responsibility that feels so out of your league, or simply trusting God in the middle of your discomfort. And I tell you, you will surprise yourself because you are stronger than you think. And with God's help, you can navigate even the most uncomfortable seasons and come out stronger, come out wiser, come out more equipped for your next. Friends, the uncomfortable places in your life, they are not the end of your story. They are the beginning of something beautiful. And when you step into the leadership seat, you will discover strength, you will discover wisdom, and you will discover potentials you never knew that you had. And I want you to know you got this and God's got you. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me today. If this episode encouraged you, share it with somebody. They might want to be encouraged. And as you navigate your journey, remember, leadership starts with you, and your best is yet to come. Until next time, keep leading yourself well. You are stronger than you think, and your story is far from over.